6. All right. Do we have any agenda items that we want to move around or add or remove?
I had an update on the pollinator garden at the pool, but that's a quick one.
Okay. So we've got a large list on our discussion items. So I might, depending on how far we get, we might need to table them for future weeks, but we'll see how far we get. All right. Let's see. So do we want to adopt the agenda as it is now and briefly update on the pollinator garden at the pool? Yes, no, yes, thumbs up.
Sounds good.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Nope, you're good.
Okay. Next we have officer elections. So we shall have a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary to be selected by our group. Do we have enough people, Pete? I don't know if we do.
You have enough people to have an election. You have a quorum. You have more than a quorum. So you have. We could do it. I'll leave it up to you guys.
Someone should go knock on Doug's house.
I can't.
Might be in a book again.
I can't raise them. I sure hope it's a good book. It better. I'm sure it is. So yeah, we have to elect a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. And if you would like me to read what those positions entail from the bylaws, I can, but I think you guys have already read that in the packet.
Is anyone interested in a brief overview of what the different officer roles are and what they require in terms of responsibilities and expectations?
I think that'd be a good idea.
Okay.
Oh, looks like we have a guest as well. Welcome, Tom Gaskill. With the consensus, I should read those. I can.
Sure. If unless you're juggling other things, I can go ahead and read them.
I'll just share my screen so you can see them, and okay. You can read them, Sam. Go ahead.
Okay. So the officer of the chair position is general supervisory and directional powers over the committee. That sounds very substantial. The chair shall preside at committee meetings, develop agendas with staff. That's Pete in this case. And chair shall be the designated spokesperson for the committee unless delegated to another person in the NRC, I suppose. And the chair shall be an ex officio member of all subcommittees. So if we have, for example, a tree committee as a part of the NRC, I would be a member of that subcommittee. Make sense? And then the vice chair, in the absence of the chair, the vice chair shall have general supervisory and directional powers over the committee, preside at committee meetings, develop agendas with the staff liaison, and generally conduct all business delegated to the chair. And the secretary shall review transcribed minutes for each of the regular meetings and work sessions. And the secretary shall provide staff, so that's Pete in this case, city staff, with assigned minutes for staff's retention of public record. Additionally, the secretary shall provide staff with an electronic version of the minutes for posting on the city's website.
Yeah. So yeah, that's right now, what we've been doing is we have a template from, sorry, can't find my screen. Okay, sorry. Can you guys hear me? Right now, we are working off a template from the city recorder's office for the minutes. Brian has some familiarity with that template. He doesn't have to provide us with an electronic copy. We just kind of work through that process. Yeah, secretary's role is pretty important. Want to make sure that we're picking up the main aspects of your decisions and how you reach them. So yeah. So that said, we can, I'll leave it up to you guys to move on.
All right. Oh, let's get nominations then. Who wants to nominate a chair?
I would like to nominate Sam as chair. You're already doing an excellent job.
Do we need a second? I'm happy to second that.
Okay. Any other nominations or self-nominations?
Brian, how do you feel about co-chair or vice chair?
Like as a role for me?
Yes.
I would be happy to serve in that role at the will of the committee. I will say I don't know that I'm the expert for that role.
Do you have a second on that nomination?
I'll second.
All right. So far we got a nomination from Emily. Nomination from Emily and a second from Brian for Sam as chair, and then nomination from Sam and a second from Emily for Brian.
Oh, that's reverse. Emily also nominated Brian for vice chair.
Yeah.
Emily's on a roll.
Yeah. All right. So you want to take a vote on chair?
Sure. I'll vote in favor of me as chair. That sounds weird, but raise your hand.
I'll do a voice vote. Yeah.
Yes.
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 Okay.
Any nays? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. And I'll vote in favor of Brian. He's in this direction of my squares. For vice chair of the NRC. I'll vote in favor. Raise your hand or say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Congratulations, Brian.
Thanks. Congratulations, Sam. So we've vacated the secretary role in that case.
So who is interested in secretary? I want to note that there's some really good transcription software out there nowadays that makes taking notes really easy.
Yeah. City Recorder's Office is using some of that technology, and I can coordinate with Jacob and Evan in the Recorder's Office and see what can be done if there's no secretary elected. Or you guys could take another election at the next meeting, see if there's any interest in that. Okay.
Okay.
That sounds
All right.
great.
We'll table the secretary election. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. And congrats to our
Yeah,
new
thank you.
long live the chair.
Okay. Next, we have
Thank
public
you.
comment. So I'm going to invite Tom Gaskill to unmute and allow 3 minutes for his comment. Hey, Tom, we can't hear you if you're talking.
There we go. Hi, all. My name is Tom Gaskill, and I'm the Executive Director of the Greater Oregon City Watershed Council. I was invited by Doug Neely to come and observe, I guess, to learn more about the Natural Resources Committee and your work. And so that's what I'm here to do tonight. I've not been to a meeting before, and I met Pete. I think I met you once prior, but I'm excited to hear, what you have on your slate for now. I'm and definitely interested to know how the Watershed Council can interact with the committee going forward. So we have lots of projects in and around Oregon City that we're working on, and I'd like to, just understand kind of what the Natural Resource Committee does in terms of its work with the city. We do work with the Public Works Department. So Marcos Kubo sits on our board. He was very kindly at our board meeting last night for a couple of hours, and he actually brought up the use of AI as a recording method to help out our secretary. So I appreciate that comment. And then we've also worked a bit with the Parks and Recreation Department on projects in the past, and hopefully we'll continue that work. So I met with Thomas Kissinger a couple weeks back and had worked with his predecessor, John Waverly, prior. So, and other than that, I just wanted to say hello and kind of put a face to a name if you have heard my name before, probably have not. But we're excited as an organization. We're starting to grow. So we have a new halftime outreach and engagement coordinator, Kira Smith. And Kira is shared actually with another watershed council, the North Clackamas Watersheds Council. So she works part-time for them, part-time for us. But I definitely think there are opportunities for us to collaborate, but I'd like to just kind of sit back and learn. And if you have any questions for me, happy to answer them.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I think it would be lovely to invite you back as an agenda item if we can talk like that. Maybe we invite you back sometime and you can present more than 3 minutes on what projects the Watershed Council is working on, and maybe after today you'll learn a little bit more about us and see where you might overlap and can be of support to each other. So
yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that. So my information is on the website, but I can type it into the chat as well. You probably guessed I'm on my phone right now. I've had a long day of it, but I'm going to listen in and try and grab a little bite to eat, but I will tap that contact information in the chat. So if someone wants to reach out to me, I'd be happy to present. We do present annually to the City Council or the City Commission. But we also, I think for this group, I could probably present a little more detail on some of our projects. So love to do that.
Great. I don't know if we have a chat function, to be honest, but we can reach out to Doug separately. I imagine he has your contact.
Yeah, absolutely, he does. So, all right. Wonderful. Great. Well, thank you. I probably took more than 3 minutes. Apologize for that.
That's okay, Tom. Hey, I have a quick question. Are your meetings in person or are they hybrid or Zoom or what?
Yeah, so just this year, we've been working with the Clackamas Soil and Water Conservation District to use their lovely facility up there in Beaver Creek. And so we do a hybrid meeting, so people can access us via Zoom or in person. We met in person last night. I know the board really likes it. It's a little bit of, right now, the Soil and Water Conservation District is trying to figure out how not to overtax their staff. And so generously, a couple of people have offered, and the director there has allowed us to meet twice, because we meet in the evenings from 6 to 8 p.m., second Tuesday of every other month. So we do committee work in between. So our next meeting will be in May. And I don't know yet whether that will be at the Soil and Water Conservation District office. So, but I can get that information back to you for sure.
Great. Yeah, I'd love to get an invitation and throw it on my calendar just to make sure I know and can participate if I can be of any assistance. So.
Excellent. Well, the more that we can, learn from one another and collaborate successfully, I think the better off we are. The community expects that of us. So, for sure.
Thanks for coming and feel free to listen in.
Yeah, I sure will. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. New business discussion items.
Okay. So I think let's see, new business. Whoops. New business. First item up was the work plan. So I'm going to share my screen and show you guys the work plan in the packet. Second. All right. When I do that, you all disappear. Okay. So I assume you guys have already looked through this. I wasn't going to read everything. I just wanted to point out that the way the work plan is organized is based on the NRC's responsibilities as written in the bylaws. You guys can change this document as we move throughout the year. We're trying to peg it to the biennium and city commission's goals as well. There are some long-standing items that are kind of working items on here. In particular, those are communicating regularly with other agencies and groups to promote our various programs, and those include the Heritage Tree Program, and trying to support other partnerships, including Greater Oregon City Watershed Council, Oregon City Parks, and promoting habitat improvement projects within the city's urban growth boundary, Oregon Heritage Tree Council and Oregon Community Trees. We are also responsible, you're also responsible for initiating recommendations and reviewing updates to city policies, and that includes the comprehensive plan, various codes that affect natural resources, trees, habitat, water quality, etc., and policies as they relate to statewide planning goals that are integral to the city's mission. And that is a fairly wide-ranging responsibility, and generally the opportunity for that comes up whenever we have either the code open for amendments or the city commission directs us to provide input on policies, for example, the street tree code and the street tree list. And then through other departments such as Public Works and Parks, we can potentially explore feasibility of promoting tree cover or stormwater and participation in pollinator garden programs like BC USA. And let's move on a little bit. Promoting public awareness about habitat improvement. And I think the recent initiative is the Spring Resource Fair, which is being organized through the Communications and Public Involvement Coordinator, Hannah Schmidt. And also promoting awareness of dangers of pesticide use, etc., and cost savings. So these are kind of ongoing things. If we have applications that seek to deviate from cities' adopted standards for natural resource overlays, district protection, or Willamette Greenway, or geologic hazards, or our tree protection code, then we would attempt to get those to the natural resources so that they can comment on those initiatives. Usually those are either legislative actions or type 3 applications initiated by developers or private property owners who are seeking an alternative to compliance with a particular standard. That has not happened a whole lot. Oftentimes, the planning commission is the body that is the decision maker on those type 3 applications and that sort of thing. However, when the opportunity is available, the planning commission likes to hear from the Natural Resources Committee on those sorts of things. We do have to observe deadlines for public comment. We do have to observe the process for land use, which is limited, and it's usually limited to a 120-day process. So we also have to observe public meetings laws and hold open meetings with notice to the public if we're going to provide recommendations on those sorts of things. And then final responsibility, including an annual report to the Planning Commission and City Commission, and coordinating with PRAC on at least an annual basis. And we had Tom Kissinger at our last meeting, and I think we have a great opportunity there to have more regular interaction with PRAC, hopefully through Tom, on an annual basis. I will stop talking for a little bit, let you guys weigh in. The one, before I stop talking, sorry, the one item that I know is really not on the table anymore is responsibility one, number 5, because the property owner in question in Thimble Creek concept plan area that we're, the golf course property owner right now is not seeking voluntary heritage tree designation. They have signed a land use application for a subdivision on the golf course that is going through review right now. So that one may be something we want to take another look at. Okay.
So quick clarification, is there opportunity in this meeting to discuss changes to the work plan?
Certainly. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, I want to open up discussion then. What do we think about the work plan right now? And if there's areas to make changes, we can discuss that.
I wonder quickly, Dave, have you seen this work plan before? I know the group put it together. I'm not sure about the timeline. Is this the first time you've seen this?
I scanned it earlier when I got the, it was attached to the email, I think.
Okay.
But it's quite a bit. I don't know that I've got much valuable input at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, I'm guessing that you either will or won't once you spend some time with it. And also, I think Doug will have some wisdom to offer the group. Sam, I'm certainly not suggesting that we don't discuss it now, but I just want to make sure that both of these members have the awareness of what's in it also.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's good to make sure we're aware of what's on the work plan, especially if we are invited to other groups or committees and they're interested in what is the NRC, what are you guys working on? So this is kind of the document that describes all that. And if there's items on here that we either need to modify because it's no longer relevant, or it's an item that we aren't committed to anymore. We would like to move away from and focus on other projects, or even if we feel that it's too much, we need to scale it down a little bit to something more manageable and feel like we have accomplishable tasks that we feel like we can actually do. That would be reasonable too. So if there's any, it's good to just kind of make a note if we're not feeling like we want to do any edits today. I can see some areas that we might want to edit, or choose a way to tailor it in a way that's more focused so that we don't have too many projects in too many areas that are difficult for us to support in this biennium. So right now it's a 2-year biennium and it's 2024.
Yeah.
So that makes 1 year to do some of this stuff. So it's not set in stone. We can make changes. Emily, did you have any thoughts? I don't see you anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of the, the goals and the responsibilities outlined here, like I'm looking at, so NRC responsibility, number 2, like, I feel like it makes it look like there's so much to do, but so many of those things can, be integrated. It's all kind of like, it's in support of one goal. And so I think that, I don't know, I think they're basically reasonable. And I think that, you and Brian and I have at least had some time to think about these goals, and, we're a part of drafting them. And so, I guess I would be curious to see what Doug has to say. And Dave, you had a chance to look it over, but to kind of just broaden that to include, any like projects that as individuals, like, Doug or Dave, that you're working on that could be integrated into this.
I just realized I was talking on mute. I've got a question for you, Pete. Is this format where we just list responsibilities mandated? And I'll tell you why I'm asking that question is I think it might be valuable for this group to set some semi-short-term goals, where it's like, for 2022, we want to accomplish these 3 things that we can like really distill down, because this is a big list and we can touch all of these things, in my opinion. And I think that we might be more effective if we consider just a few things to like really focus on, to make sure that we take every step that we can, whether we get to the finish line or not. We're asking the question every month, what are we doing about these specific things? Is there room for that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent of choosing, having a group elect the top 5 or the top 3, that they feel are doable within a biennium. Many of these are support things, and so the initiatives are not necessarily coming directly from the committee, but they are things that may require, support letters and things of that nature when the opportunity arises. But in terms of what the committee can initiate and complete, I think, we've got the Heritage Tree Program one. We've got a city commission goal to try to preserve and increase tree canopy throughout the city. That's fairly new. It's not on this list. It's tied to some of the things that are on this list. It's not completing all of these is not a mandate, but it should be realistic. Yeah. I think we've had, you've heard from John Lewis, our Public Works Director, and Kendall Reed as well, I believe, our Parks and recreation director about integrated pest management and where those departments fall in relation to that. And there is some participation in those models, I think, but it's not explicit at this point. And then you've got some very specific things on here, such as the pollinator gardens thing, which is reliant on working with Parks and Rec, and with Public Works on city-owned properties. So that's not, and then we've got initiatives through, as I mentioned, Hannah Schmidt. I found out last week that, the Spring Forward event has a lot of focus on pollinator gardens, and I had no prior knowledge of that until it came out. So that raised my awareness about the success that they are having promoting pollinator gardens in private property, in private yards. And we did some website. The city planning department has a website for pollinator gardens with links to other organizations and how to implement that. So that one's got some legs to it. So realistically, I think we're focusing on the first page.
To kind of piggyback on what you said, Pete, I was at the Spring Forward event, and there was a lot of people. There was Xerxes was there, and there was a bunch of, I know Tom was there with the Watershed Council, and there was a recycling table, just a really great assembly of resources. Soul Flags art was there. There was a playground set up, indoor playground equipment that Melissa had brought over from the pool. And I went to the talk last year as well, and I think there was maybe 4 people at the talk last year. And this year, I think there was probably maybe between, I don't know, 15 and 18 people that came to the talk. So, it was a fullish room, which was really nice to see. And they had 2 people at the pollinator table, which was nice. I think there was one last year, I want to say. Yeah, that was a really nice event. And thanks for the reminder on the Oregon City website page. I'm looking at it now, and it looks like there's still a picture of a butterfly that's not a monarch on a butterfly bush, which is a noxious weed. And I was wondering if we could just get that updated.
Yeah, we can do that.
I feel like the details matter so much for something like this. And if Oregon City is going to go through the trouble of, providing resources, and if people take those recommendations, then, we just want to make sure that they're as accurate as possible.
Sure. Yeah. I'll make a note to make that change.
It doesn't have to be a monarch, but yeah, just, getting rid of that.
Yeah.
That butterfly bush. And the pictures are so small. I feel like these insects and flowers are so gorgeous. I don't know if it's possible to just make more pictures, but I feel like people are more inclined, especially when there's just a list of resources, to keep scrolling if it's not just a block of text.
I agree. I think there's some limitations when we switched over to the new web page, and that's when those photos got shrunk.
Okay.
Which was our web guru's call. But
I wonder too, because it's just at least the page that I'm looking at, is it just the one page? It's called Create Pollinator Gardens, and then there's 3 images that you can scroll through, and then online education resources for pollinator gardens. Is that the extent of the Oregon City's resource list, or
well, that I don't know, because I just I'm in the planning department.
Okay. I thought I remember there was more text on it when we had talked about it before.
Yeah, I think I thought we had a paragraph in there that explained what the point of them was and what.
Yeah, I thought we did too. If not, I'm happy to write that.
Yeah.
Or to pull that from Xerxes. They have, it's pretty, we don't have to reinvent the wheel there, but.
Yeah, I feel like, somebody's done some editing and they've kind of taken a machete, but yeah.
The resources are great. I mean, yeah, these are really good resources. It would just be nice if there was more visuals, and also just kind of an introduction to pull people in instead of just giving them a list.
Yeah.
In addition to giving them a list, rather.
Yeah, I did mention this to our communications coordinator today, and I was like, well, we need to coordinate with you guys because the NRC is very interested in this, and so I anticipate that. Well, I hope that we can get a more collaboration on that because we're kind of in a unique role here because planning staff is the liaison of the Natural Resources Committee, but we don't actually control any city property or city programs.
Yeah.
We do land use review. But, when the opportunity presents itself, we know the NRC affects policies and through the land use process. So I think that's why you guys are under planning for now. But there may be an opportunity for us to collaborate more with, well, I'm sure there is more opportunity to collaborate through the communications managers program. And I talked to them about that this morning. So.
Oh, I'm just noticing there's an FAQ. Okay, so there is like a little bit more. It's just kind of weird how it's on the side. It's very easy to miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So I think we're principally concentrating on the first page, responsibilities 1 and 2. I feel like responsibilities 3, 4, and 5 are more standing things. So if you guys want to take a whack at it and bring back some comments when we meet next time, that would be good. And you can send those to me as well, and I will just kind of patch them together and put them in the agenda.
I guess I like Brian's idea of, and I don't know if you want to speak more to this, Brian, but just having like very specific kind of action items that we set, maybe at the beginning of the year, maybe a couple times a year, just to kind of like have, I don't know, some sort of map of where, like, how we're going to get to these things. And I think having this document with all this information is great, but then not necessarily changing it to like accommodate those short-term goals, but like just having, maybe having an additional like document or something that we set out those shorter term actionable items.
Yeah, I agree. The public tree inventory piece of this can't really move forward unless we get collaboration with parks. And Tom Kissinger at the last meeting said how important that was. So I think you've got something that can really move there.
That's positive.
Yeah.
I know he also, thinks we have too much grass, which I was glad to hear. So hopefully that means, more trees, more shrubs, less grass.
Yes.
Well, maybe I can send an email out with this, or Pete, if you feel it's more appropriate if you do so. Basically, a little homework assignment for our group is to review this and just kind of make note of where we either want to hone in or clarify action items, and maybe in a separate way note like specific tasks that we do that support these action items, like coordinate with the Parks Department on further discussions on urban tree inventories, stuff like that. But I think it would be a good exercise for everyone to just review this occasionally so that we're up to date with what we signed up for, and to make sure that we still agree, and if we want to make changes that we can bring them up next time. So Pete, do you want me to send an email, or should I send a note to you and you send the email? What's the best way?
I can send that out. I'll send that out. And just ask for individual feedback from each of you. You can respond back to me directly anytime between now and the next meeting, and I'll compile. And you can be as honest or brutal or as you want, and I'll summarize everything.
Thank you. That would be great.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other comment or discussion about this work plan for now? Okay, let's move on.
All right. Next item was City Commission Goal 7, which gotta scroll around here. Sorry. City Commission's Goal 7 is an environmental goal, and it is protect and preserve the environmental and natural resources for a healthy, sustainable community. And then task 7.1, focus efforts on preserving and protecting the city's tree canopy. So I can give you an update on what the city staff has been working on. We have, we're working on getting our contract with Friends of Trees renewed. It goes before the City Commission next week on the 20th. That contract is for planting of up to 140 trees. They've already planted close to 100 trees between the last December planting, and then we have another planting event coming up on Arbor Day on April 6th. The program that Friends of Trees runs is unique because they do all of the outreach and coordination, the flagging of where the trees are going to be planted, selecting the tree stock, et cetera, et cetera. So they do a lot of the heavy lifting on the administrative side, as also on the volunteer coordination side of this. And that takes a huge burden off the city and provides the opportunity for homeowners to get high quality trees at a very, very low price. They've been operating in the city since 2013. They did operate prior to that, but consistently since 2013. And the work that's supported through the tree mitigation fund, which is under the planning department. And the tree mitigation fund is supported through fees from development, fees in lieu, when developers cannot plant all the trees that the city code requires on site. So it is a way of putting back some of the canopy that we lose through development and through replacement of trees. So I'll be giving a presentation to the City Commission next week about the Friends of Trees program, and also a presentation on our Tree City USA application, which is annual. Last year, 2023 was our 11th year as a Tree City USA, and our 4th year as getting a growth award. And the growth award was awarded for the work that we did on the street tree code, for celebrating the Hiroshima Peace Tree down at the end of the Oregon Trail Center, through the ongoing partnership with Friends of Trees and the pruning workshops that they did in particular, to teach people how to properly prune trees, and one other item. So we were able to get another growth award for that. I think because of Friends of Trees, we were able to do those things, and because of the tree mitigation. But also, we have great partnerships with Oregon Community Trees. Thank you, Sam. And so that kind of sums up a lot of the planning department's tree work. I think with Tom Kissinger being the new Parks and Rec maintenance manager, and with Marcus Kubo, for example, working with Greater Oregon City Watershed Council, we've got staff from both Parks and Public Works who are focusing as well on water quality and habitat initiatives. So those, I don't want to just talk about the stuff that planning is doing. So that's kind of, and then the numbers that we submitted to Arbor Day last year, I think we had about, from what data we could collect, which is probably, I'd like to say it's undercounting, but we had about 285 trees planted. 290 something planted, 270 trees removed, about 950 trees pruned, and the per capita tree management program worked out to about $12.82 per capita. And the minimum that this Tree City USA program requires is $2. So there's a lot of private costs that are borne, by homeowners who are spending their own money on replacing and maintaining trees and paying for arborists and all that kind of thing that we're not able to capture that kind of data. But it is all part of the city's overall tree canopy. So what we are able to capture are the costs that the city does and the Friends of Trees program does. Yeah. So next item is directly related to the city commission goal, which is the tree code recommendation to the city commission. And thanks, Sam, for sending that draft out for us to comment on. I'm going to pull it up on my screen and share.
Quick caveat.
Yeah.
I always end up being really tired when I work on these things because it's always the end of the evening and I am wiped. So it is not my best. So apologies if I missed key points that we had discussed. So I just decided to stop trying so hard and kick it over to you guys so I can get more eyes, more energy. So apology it took so long.
No, that's all right. I took about 15 minutes before the meeting to kind of go through things and try to make some sidebar comments. But this is early days. We've got lots of opportunity here. I thought the letter was great. I think it's captured a lot of what we discussed.
But yeah, don't hold back. If you've got recommendations for improvement, I will not. I am open to feedback.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get both pages on one thing here. So let's just go through, and I'll send these out to the group as well. Okay. Is that easier to read? Oh, you can't even, I haven't shared yet. Hang on. All right. So, in the first paragraph, you talked about the OC 2040 community vision, explicitly calls for supporting our extensive tree canopy. I was just going to recommend that you include that goal that we just talked about. Next, third paragraph down, you'd asked for some explicit input on what the code chapters are. So that's what I'm basically doing. And the city has Chapter 1208 to address trees on public property and rights of way. Chapter 1741 to address trees and development on non-residential private property. We have Chapter 1749, NROD overlay that protects habitat and vegetation abutting water resources. And we have the Heritage Tree Program to protect a few notable trees and stands, which is voluntary, not regulatory. So that's my suggestion for revisions there. Second to last paragraph on the first page. You said the city tree codes must do more to preserve large mature trees, particularly city-owned trees, and encourage prudent sidewalk maintenance that doesn't eliminate more of a diminished canopy. So I just would say tree codes, plural, both the chapters that apply to public trees and those that apply to private development. Or our recommendation is we need to look at all these chapters and try to come to some recommendation about what it should look like in the future, because we kind of have 4 different chapters of code for trees. Current city practice does not inform the adjacent landowner of potential alternatives that could preserve mature trees, leading to an additional burden for tree removal in order to construct the standard sidewalk. When an adjusted sidewalk may be feasible at a much lower cost. So we heard from Josh Wheeler about what the city standards are. It's a 5-foot standard, panels 4 inches thick, according to engineering standard. But, right now we are seeing the issue that you raise here, about sidewalk mobility being trumping the tree size and the tree condition. And you're right about if the planted strip is 3 foot or less, there's no mitigation required at all, and that applies regardless of tree size. So you might see a very large tree in a 3-foot planter strip never replaced. And so that's a concern that you had. A few other things. With respect to the arborist's report and tree risk assessment. So I think this one we can look through in more detail. Industry practice for assessing hazard trees is not currently required. City code mistakenly labels a tree as a hazard when a sidewalk is uplifted rather than the true source, which is the sidewalk. Hazard trees adhere to arboriculture industry safety standards are rigorously studied and reviewed. The city can improve its assessment by requiring tree risk assessments performed by certified arborists that are not the same contractor hired to remove the tree. So you point out that conflict of interest. Current code does not prevent the conflict of interest. I think you're right. There's nothing in the code about that. And then we talk about, you talk about having one report that assesses the hazard and the health of the tree. And then the fee piece, what kind of fees are we talking about? Are we talking about review fees, or are we talking about actual pay by the inch removal fees, which is more disincentive? So those are things that you saw in Milwaukee and Portland and can't remember the other one, Gresham maybe. But they're starting to have a review fee, but they're also charging for removal of larger trees to act as a disincentive for removal. And then that money in turn is used to replant. So there is potential to get a better supported tree program through fees. I think that was one point you're making.
Yeah, well, it also would help GoPay the processing, the work of staff that goes into the review. So at least that's what a part of the fees would
Yeah.
also. So like you have to really want it. So it shouldn't just be free necessarily to remove a tree, and it shouldn't just be like a tracking method, which I think is sometimes what it is, because it does take time for staff, and it might hit multiple staff more than once. It is expensive, and it shouldn't be a burden to the city when there's ways to have, and if we want more scrutiny, we should definitely find a way to pay for it. So the costs are going up, not down.
Yeah, and the planning department has long been, the city's department that issues permits for tree removal. And, I don't know that we're the most qualified. And I know that we're not collecting enough to cover our time because we don't charge any permit fees. We estimate on average it takes about a half an hour to an hour to do as permit review. But it's sort of very much based on the property owner's desire and willingness to comply with the city's public tree code. And also to replant. So there's not a whole lot of inspection that goes on. There's no inspections that go on prior to planting the tree or after the tree. We rely on the homeowner to be honest and do it. There's some, and then, we do find after the fact that people actually haven't replanted, which is disappointing. So definitely room for improvement there.
So I want to mention that this is a long letter that has a variety of, like, more than one complaint that we're seeking to address. And it could be that it's too much and we want to pare it down to have a more honed in message. I'm open to that. This is just kind of what came out of 4 months of late night, not getting enough sleep, and hacking at it at different times. So it might not be as straightforward as might be most receptive. If I'm clear, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. One real simple suggestion I might make is that you could potentially put just, like a one-line subject heading if you're going to keep it this long. And then we can talk about, the fees, other codes. But I will send what I've done out to the group and then let you guys have at it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate Brian's mention. He's stated in the past that he thinks we should be targeted, and I agree. So I would value your input, Brian, and yours, of course, Emily and Dave, as well as others that aren't here tonight. So I'm happy to get more voices in this letter.
Yeah, thanks so much for drafting this. I think that compared to that first draft, I feel like this one is a lot more focused. And one thing that I also noticed, that I don't know if we want to have a discussion about this, but there was less in this version, if I'm remembering right, than the previous one about a hired arborist. And I mean, it seemed like a relevant thing to include, and I wonder if it should just be mentioned. Like, it's mentioned kind of on the second page a little bit, but it's more brief than it was before. And I guess to me, these seem like they're so like they're married in terms of like the execution of this, and having staff that will be able to do that in a non-biased way. And so I wonder if that could just be brought up maybe sooner, and I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to meaningfully like read this or revise in the past 2 days, but I'm going to go through this week and, just kind of like go through and do line edits. But I think it's an excellent draft. And even if, submitted in the current form, I think it really conveys a lot of meaningful information and useful information.
Thanks. Yeah, there was an earlier draft where we had talked about like financial pros and cons, and I was a little too exhausted to try to dig deep and research or find my information that I might have lying around in my emails for that. So I think that is a valuable discussion to have, like, what is the costs of not maintaining your urban forests more proactively versus reactively. There is information out there. I'm too tired. So there is information out there. It can be a part of the larger discussion down the road if folks are interested.
Pete, did you say something about getting, like information that would go into cost benefit analysis? And obviously it's not going to be perfect, but just kind of like a ballpark of what the city currently spends on, reactive kind of style management of tree canopy?
Mm-hmm. Well, I was talking about the planning department's FTE estimate for processing permits, street tree permits. To have a working tree code, we have to, I think there's 3 components to having a better management of our tree canopy. I think we need an inventory. I think we need a plan. And then we need some staff to implement whatever code is implemented. Right now we don't regulate cutting of trees on residential property at all, unless it's a street tree abutting that property. So, a lot of the Milwaukee, Portland, they regulate trees on private residential property, and that takes up, 70% of the zoning in Oregon City is exclusively residential. So that's where a huge amount of your canopy is. And you have to decide whether you're going to be a carrot or a stick. What are you going to incentivize? What are you going to regulate? And you have to be able to convince the city commission, a majority of the city commission, that that's worth doing. So that's where we're at. But this is a good step in the right direction. As far as getting back to cost benefit thing, yeah, I mean, there is some good data out there for ecosystem services that trees provide. If the city commission would like to see that kind of data, but I do feel like anyway, yeah, that would be, we could help put that together, but I don't think we would provide the whole picture because we'd need input from Public Works and Parks as well.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Sure. Okay.
All right. Any more comments or discussion about this letter before we move on to the next discussion topic? Okay. Let's move on. Thanks, Pete. I appreciate your edits.
Yeah, well, they're just thoughts I have, but I'll send that along to you guys. So I know Doug had raised the issue of going back to in-person meetings. We could certainly do that. I have to coordinate it with the city recorder's office and figure out where the venue would be. I think it would be at Old City Hall, which is where CIC and PRAC meet. And Willamette Falls TV would still continue to stream and on the YouTube channel. And we can still have hybrid participation if we do want to do that. But I wanted to get the group's further input on that.
I love the idea of having a in-person physical meeting because I think that there's a lot to be gained from that. And I think it's really important for this group to make sure that we can have a quorum and make sure that we can meet when we're meant to meet. And so my suggestion is if we go down the road of in-person meetings, that we ensure that we have a hybrid option or a remote option. I'd love to be in the room with this whole group. I'm just concerned that we would stifle our productivity if we are too rigid about the requirements of how we get together.
Yeah. So, how how does the group feel about going back to in-person meetings as a group? Can we take a consensus type vote?
I guess I don't know. I think it was proposed last time that maybe there was an option of doing some in-person meetings, but not every meeting. I don't know if that's something that people would be open to. For me personally, it would be hard to make every in-person meeting. But I love the idea of being able to see you all on a regular basis in person. But I don't know if every month for me personally would be feasible.
Well, yeah, that's kind of a two-part question, Emily. I think there's the question of does the committee want to meet every month? And then there's the question of should all meetings be in person? And I think if we did go to in-person meetings, there would always be an in-person venue availability. But you wouldn't have to show up in person necessarily. I don't know how CIC handles that. But obviously, if you can't make the meeting, but you can come in hybrid, we can accommodate that. So,
There's definitely, just speaking on CIC, and I don't know if it's changed in the past couple months. I'm no longer on CIC, but there was an option to do virtual. I say like 90%, 80, 90% of folks showed up in person for every meeting. And the virtual option was nice. Usually people just did that if they were out of town. There's definitely some technical, the hearing is not, the audio is not honed in, even after what seems like significant effort to resolve that issue. There's still audio issues. So I tuned in virtually a couple times, and it is different. I feel like people who are in person have much more of a presence, because usually there's only one, but our group is so small, I don't think it would make as much of a difference. But certainly with a larger group, if 90% are in person and there's only one or two people on Zoom, then it's less impactful. But yeah, I don't know. Would it be you said it's only an option to do in person if it's every time, so it's kind of like an all or nothing thing?
I don't know. I'll talk to Jacob and see what he says. I think, we made the decision to go to 6 p.m. on Zoom because it was convenient during COVID, and we're not in that situation anymore. But I think we could potentially keep to the 6 p.m. time if that's good for people. But yeah, I think you guys have a lot of flexibility to choose your venue. Really, it just has to be what the group wants. I like the idea of in-person meetings because you got a place to come, and there's less. I mean, there's still a fair amount of technical work on the Willamette Falls TV side of it, but there's less potential for disconnections due to all the different people coming in remotely. So, and Yeah.
Do we, as a group, need to consider cost difference?
No.
Okay.
There's a budget that supports the committees and boards. So, yeah.
One benefit of in-person meetings seems to be that there is more public comment. And I don't know if that's like, people are more inclined to, it's easier to just show up instead of like request a Zoom meeting link or something. It allows for like last minute or, kind of more spontaneous public comment. But for the CIC and for PrAC, I noticed that there was definitely there was some public comment when in-person meetings were started. So that was nice.
Yeah, we might get more public comment. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. So there's definitely advantages there. And I'm behind whatever the committee decides to do. So I think for the next meeting, I'll talk to Jacob, our city recorder, and he can provide some specific direction on that. We might even be able to do our next meeting in person.
Well, quick note on next meeting. Do we have a date for that? I'm sure we do. I just don't have it in front of me.
Our second Wednesday. So let's see.
I have it on the 10th. So I will be in Michigan.
Yeah. Okay.
That day.
All right.
I can tune in.
Well, we'll see. We should probably decide whether we're gonna. What agenda items would we have? We would have the letter recommending, to the city commission on the tree codes. That's so far all we have. And any work plan input you guys give me between now and then, that's potentially on the agenda as well. In terms of inviting people to speak, I think I was going to invite Hannah Schmidt to the NRC to talk about the Spring Forward event and other ways to collaborate.
So let's back up real quick before we talk about April. Let's finish the conversation with the NRC meetings. Dave, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about in-person meetings.
Yeah, I love the idea. Feasibility for me personally is the issue. I like to think probably half the time I could make it in for that. Somewhat frequently I'm at work for these meetings. I just end up staying late and then I just stay there for the meeting, which isn't a big deal. That's not really unique to Wednesdays, so I'm not sure if a change in the date or time would be helpful there. Having the hybrid option, I think, answers a lot of that. Yeah. Again, I love the idea, and I think sometimes I could pull that off. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm same thing. I work from home on Wednesdays, so I'm in town. But it's mostly juggling family responsibilities around it. So I want to reserve the ability to have hybrid just in those cases when family obligations make it tight in order to participate or not. Having the hybrid makes it possible, then I would like it to be available. But when it is more flexible and I can go in person, I'd like to have that as an option. So do we want to make a decision now or should we Do you want to shoot for an April in-person meeting?
Should we just wait on starting just because you're not going to be here and then start, like, if we do in person, have that first one be in May instead of April?
I think that's probably more prudent, Emily, to shoot for May. Yeah.
I agree.
We can do, so that's the 8th of May. So let's pencil that as in person,
Okay.
reserving hybrid functions. And
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
would you be able to send an edited or just an invite that speaks to the in-person and the location and all that stuff when the invite goes out for the May 8th?
Absolutely. We'll make some changes to our, well, actually we won't have to make a whole lot of changes. The agenda software, it has the capability to do both. So, yeah. Okay.
Well, let's scoot down to, we'll get to future agenda items after the communication section. Is that, sounds good?
Yeah.
I don't want to forget about planning for the next meeting. So communications, Emily, you had an update.
Yeah, just a quick update. I met with Tom Kissinger last week about the pollinator garden on the north side of the Oregon City swimming pool, and it sounds like they're planning to contract potentially, or have city staff put up a 3-foot brick wall, because it's on a slope. I don't know if anyone's seen that site, but it's really tricky for parks staff to mow that area, and it sounds like they're hand mowing it currently, or push mowing it currently. So they're looking to have like kind of a retaining wall of brick, and then also to keep people outside of the garden. And so that whole area, it's 200 feet long by, I didn't get the width measurement, but I think it's probably like 20 to 25 feet. So it's a long, narrow strip on the north side of the pool building. And Tom had sent me some of the seed lists from Silver Falls Seeds Company, which is a localish company, and it looks like a really excellent mix. It's all Pacific Northwest and California natives. So it sounds like there probably is funding for this, so that there doesn't need to, like, I think Kendall Reed had mentioned like fundraising for it. It doesn't sound currently like that maybe needs to happen, which makes it easier. So that's the positive. But the site is going to be prepped in the next couple months, and then planting, it sounds like, will occur in the fall, so like September, October, which is pretty ideal. Then there's less watering required. We don't have to worry about summer drying all the new seedlings out. So it sounds like a really great site, and it'll make it easier to maintain for park staff as well. And there's going to be educational signage. Looks like there's a really great company that does locality specific, site specific pollinator garden signs for institutions and gardens and stuff like that. And they have gotten, Tom, when he was at Marion County, got a sign from this company, and it looked great. And he's also tried the seed mix, and it worked really well there. It seemed like the kind of seed mix where you literally just like throw it out, and like a couple months later you have a beautiful garden. So easy to use, and high germination rate, and lots of native species.
Can I get that seed mix?
Yeah, I'll put you the line. Yeah, it looks like a good one.
Thanks.
That's exciting. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great news.
Oh, and then, sorry, one bit that I forgot. I'm also in the process of applying for a plant grant through Xerxes Society for 250 feet, which a little bit over that 200 feet, but I figured, Oregon City can probably just use the others as fillers in the garden, of hedgerows specific to the Willamette Valley. So, there's going to be other cities, and it's not private property, like publicly owned property can apply. So it's not landowners that can apply, but yeah, there'll be other applicants. So I don't know if we'll get that or not, but it'd be nice to have, a really big hedgerow kind of on the upper side. So the side opposite the brick wall of pollinator friendly species.
And those are more perennial or?
I don't actually know what the mix is. It was cited as just like a Willamette Valley native hedgerow. So I imagine that maybe some of them are evergreen, just because I think of hedgerows as like kind of privacy or something that has year-round interest. I'm hoping at least that some of them are.
That would be great because, we see a lot of arborvitae.
Yeah, no, it'll be native species, hopefully evergreen, that are nectar sources. And then the functionality of that hedgerow would be, Melissa in the Parks Department said that there is soccer camps and summer camps that meet up kind of on the top of that hill. And so they're wanting to have some kind of physical barrier that separates the pollinator garden from the kids and the kids from the pollinator garden. So that hedgerow will hopefully satisfy. And if not from the Xerxes, then hopefully Oregon City can put some, some evergreen or some barrier plant in there.
Emily, for the notes or the minutes, so you're applying for a plant grant for 250 feet of hedgerow planting of a Willamette Valley native hedgerow. That's from Xerxes?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and the deadline for that is middle of April. So that's, coming up.
Thank you, Emily.
Yeah.
And that's at the pool also, right? Sorry.
Yep, that's also the pool. Right?
Okay.
All right, I have an update. There is an urban and community forestry conference being held this year in person in Eugene. It's going to be a new place. Usually we have it, and it's supported and staffed by members of the Oregon Community Trees board that I sit on. And it's a statewide nonprofit, but it is also serving as the Oregon Department of Forestry's Urban and Community Forestry Program, stakeholder group. So we advise them because they have they receive pass-through funding from the feds rather, and then that funding from the feds requires stakeholder involvement. That's OCT, Oregon Community Trees. So we host an annual conference every year. This year, the theme is more housing, more trees, giving Oregonians both. That's the theme. So responding to the pressure of housing, that's a national issue, but particularly felt here in Oregon, and putting a lot of pressure on our trees to make room for those housing. So they need not be in conflict, though. We can have a meaningful conversation about having them both in harmony. So the plan is to have in the same room information coming from the state, Oregon's Department of Land Use, giving us like the lowdown, straight up facts about what's going on with housing in Oregon. And then followed up with someone from a consulting group that analyzes tree canopy and public health, and how they've done a survey of like heat island or heat imagery in cities during like the heat dome, for example, from 2022, I think it was, or 2021, when we had the heat dome, and analyzing where pockets of a city is most dangerous for residents. And then they overlay that with where canopy is or is not. And they can make analysis of, where the hottest areas also the same areas with the lowest canopy, and they find a high correlation with that. So that makes sense when you have more shade, preventing either sunlight penetration or cooling, then you have lower temperatures in those areas of the city. So there is some overlap and support for protecting and preserving and growing canopy in cities. And that's an effort that's national, not just here. Anyway, really exciting.
When is that?
That's June 27th. Tickets are available now.
Do you want to send me an email? I'll send it over to Jared Lyman. He can put it on a news item.
Yeah.
On the city webpage.
And we're seeking continuing education credits for those who are certified arborists, as well as credits for those who are planners. So we're reaching out for support like that to encourage certified professionals in those areas to attend and join the conversation.
So that's on a Thursday. It looks like the 27th is a Thursday. Is that correct?
Yep. It's always on a Thursday.
Okay. Thank you.
It's later in June than usual, though. So hopefully, and we have a new feature, which is we're going to see if it happens. Poster presentations from students as well as professionals that have case studies that they want to present, a poster where they illustrate either their research or a project that they worked on and how they implemented either preserving trees on the property or some other relevant topic. So that's brand new. And we get support from ODF to help with that conference. But that'll be a bigger venue, new spot, more people. So hopefully folks can join us. And apparently it only costs $25 to get the train.
Mm.
Oh,
And it's and the train connection down there is pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
So that's new. And the other update is about the Mediterranean oak borer. I don't know if anyone here recalls hearing about that. Another pest in Oregon. Yeah, so we visited Wilsonville last week, and we had an update from their public works, and they're doing a lot to try to mitigate and treat the trees. So there was analysis done by the state. I forget Kristen Buell, but I forget her title. She's the state forestry pest expert. And they compared the fungal disease that comes with the bug to the trees that are located in Wilsonville that have the infestation to the trees in Troutdale that also had an infestation. And they compared the two, and they are not the same source. So they have two different strains of bugs that are coming in and attacking our oaks, basically. So that's interesting, but it's not really helpful because no one has a really good treatment plan for how to prevent infestations from continuing or to try to fight it. It's Mediterranean, so they're trying to find information from Europe, but there's not a lot of resources because they're native over there. They have natural predators or resiliency to this pest, but we don't because we're completely foreign trees, and we don't have those native ecosystem buffers. So the big concern is that they're pretty voracious and they spread quickly, and their life cycles are longer than anticipated. So they had expected that their life cycles would break, but then once they started peeling back bark, they started seeing them flying everywhere. So a little bit similar to the emerald ash borer in the sense that another boring insect is coming and will bore into the wood, but it's not the adult beetle that does the damage. And it's not necessarily the larvae, it's the fungus that the beetles carry with them, and that ultimately is what the larvae is eating. But so the larvae aren't necessarily killing the tree either. It's the fungus that does the biggest damage. So that's the difference between emerald ash borer, where the larvae are doing the bulk of the damage, and in the Mediterranean oak borer, it's the associated fungal pathogen. So sorry to be lengthy, but
I just planted a silver oak in my backyard, Hyperleucoides, a desert oak, and I'm just hoping that it's hardy enough to. It sure handled the big storm out of the gorge, no problem. It was bent over all the way, and the ice had adhered the top of the tree to the ground.
yeah, they're pretty
And then it
dandy when they're
straightened
young.
up. I was like, oh, thank God.
So the takeaway is Wilsonville has put a dashboard on their website monitoring these trees, and they are doing their own work to investigate and treatment options and doing the applications. So they're doing both a pesticide and a fungicide to try to mitigate the spread. So they aren't getting this information from anywhere else. No one is advising them. The state has no advisement either, so they're doing it themselves. So you can keep up to date with their efforts on their websites. They have it, so it's all online. The Wilsonville MOB dashboard tracker. I don't know the exact name, but it would be prudent for us in Oregon City, since we're so close, to be aware of what Wilsonville is doing, since they're kind of trailblazing in a way. And we also should keep an eye on our own oak trees. And one of the biggest indicators is seeing like frass at the bottom of the oak tree or in the upper branches. And for those that might not know, frass is basically the wood material that is kicked out when the beetle is boring into the wood. It like pushes all the wood sawdust out of the hole. So you'll see piles of it, either along the branches or at the base of the trunk. And if you see a lot of that kind of sawdusty material, it's potentially this Mediterranean oak borer. It could be our native one. And there are ways to identify it, but you need like a little magnifying lens because the borer beetle is the size of a grain of rice. But they're prolific, so they can do a lot of damage in large numbers. So,
Sam, I'm surprised to hear that Wilsonville is added alone with no help from the federal government on what sounds like an interstate problem.
well, part of it is there's not a lot of information to tell them.
Yeah.
And it hasn't had a devastating effect yet. It's attacked. They found it positive. They positively identified it in a few trees. But because of its life cycle and the way it spreads, they found more than a few. And it also seems to attack more than, like it doesn't, you don't have to be a very old tree to get it. You could be a relatively young tree to get it. I don't know if they've observed it in saplings, like what's in Pete's backyard, but I think it would be good if you're out and about and you observe a large oak tree, kind of take a look at the base of the tree and keep an eye on it. And if you do see a lot of sawdust around a tree and an otherwise intact tree, we should definitely elevate the question. So monitoring at this stage is the recommendation.
Sam and or Pete, is that the likely route that detection in Oregon City is going to take? Is someone that knows what to look for seeing something? A citizen?
I get the feeling that The parks, I don't know what the city's going to do in response, but that's up to the parks and public works guys. As for individual citizens, we can try to get the word out there about it. I know Wilsonville got really hit hard. They are reacting to a major problem. And, but if we're not careful, the same thing could happen here. So,
For those that are curious, if you do a quick Google search, just MOB and ODF or MOB in Oregon, it'll take you straight to a fact page or FAQ sheet. So if you do observe it, you can observe they have examples of symptoms to look for. And the general guidance from ODF and the Oregon Department of Agriculture. So you can find more information there. They also have, basically at this point, they're asking people not to move firewood from oak trees, any oak tree, because most people don't know if it's infested or not. And it seems to be a prolific bug that doesn't have a specific target of species of tree. It will attack a variety. So
you mean outside of oaks or just inside of oaks?
Let's see. Well, they say oak specifically.
Looks like potentially cork oak is like a favorite, but not the only species. Yeah, what a bummer.
Yeah, this seems like one of those topics that this group should make sure that we're at the forefront of, and I'm sure that's why Sam brought it up here. Does Oregon City have a public information officer?
We do now. Yeah, that's Jared Lyman.
I wonder if there's maybe at Sam's discretion a opportunity here to build that relationship for one thing, but also like consider if and how we could get the message out about this to all the folks in the city.
Yeah, I mean, this would be an initiative, planning can help, but as I said, we don't control the maintenance of public parks. That's up to the Parks Department. So we got to get the directors of those departments to recognize the threat. So, yeah.
I can tell you my experience, Asian longhorn beetle sat and worked undetected in Massachusetts for a decade. And that's a result of either nobody knowing that it could be there or of the word not getting out. So, I feel like if there's something we can do to try and spread that word, and if there's something we can do for free, especially, we should be banging down the doors of those opportunities.
Yeah, I'm looking at Wilsonville's page on MOB. It's like Carrie Rappold, who's their long-standing natural resources program manager there. And he also has Jim Carton, who's their environmental specialist. But I heard about this from their planning director, Chris, when I was at the Eugene Planning Conference. And he mentioned that it's hit the Frog Pond area, which is, there's a big public oak stand there. So they're reacting very, very aggressively to it. And it would be something that Oregon City should probably look at too. Metro, I assume, is also concerned because they've spent a great amount of time creating oak habitat over at Kenema Bluffs. I haven't talked to Brian Vaughn in a long time, but he's their natural resources scientist that was working on the oak habitat project there back in the day. So I think that would be where some of the initial efforts would need to concentrate.
There's also just a lot of like Gary Oak on the, like a lot of the big, like the freeway, like from here to Walton. There's so many oaks. Like there's this one property that I'm thinking of that must have like at least 100 oaks. It's just right along the, you know, the freeway. There's also the Demacia, that little 22 acre park. I guess that's in Westland, but you know, closer to the Tualatin side.
Do we want to throw this on the next agenda? It seems like an important item.
Yeah, seems definitely like it.
And then I could also get feedback from Tom and Kissinger and John Lewis. Excuse me.
Yeah, I feel like Brian, you have so much relevant expertise to this.
But there's no need to wait until the next agenda to just get the word out about this.
Yeah.
And just to remind, go ahead, Brian.
Just restating how important it can be to focus on awareness early on, and how that can literally save thousands and thousands and thousands of trees, just by having some awareness of like, look for frass. If you see it, take a picture and send it here, right? Like just get that word out to every senior citizen in Oregon City, and or a retired person maybe is a better way to put it, and they'll spend their time looking for it, because the difference can be a quarantine zone of no moving firewood of a half mile or 50 miles, depending on if we catch it within a month or a year or 5 years or 10 years. So just saying how important I think it is. Again, thank you, Sam.
I noticed that Oregon City also has a lot of QR code signs now. I don't know if that could be like in parks in Oregon City where there are oaks. I don't know if that's something that would be worthwhile to put out, but at an entrance, like if you see something that looks like this, like send a picture, and then, you know, potentially those images could be sent to us and then we could go investigate further. Like, it seems like, you know, if Oregon City doesn't have staff to do that, maybe that's something that if people want to send images, you know, they could send to you and then you could forward to us or something, and we could discuss and, you know, document further.
I don't really have the capacity to do that, but
Oh, I mean, I guess just like having something like a QR code where if people like take a picture of anything that looks like this and then send it to us, that's not possible.
well, the EOB had a reporting link that you could do, and I would assume.
Yeah, so Oregon has a invasive species hotline or reporting website. So if a QR code led to that website, it would directly go to the people at the state level that would be initiated to investigate.
I guess the only reason I'm thinking it would be
Oregon Department of Agriculture. There's a link. It goes right to.
So if we had it in like the next public outreach or on the website or anywhere else, it might be prudent to have, similar to Wilsonville's reference of Mediterranean oak borer, we have something about emerald ash borer on our website. It might be good to have another section, either as a component to EAB, talk about the Mediterranean oak borer. So neither have been confirmed in Oregon City, but we wouldn't know it until we found it. So we would want to find it sooner than later.
Yeah, I wonder if we could talk the new public information officer into crafting a press release.
Yeah, sure.
They're virtually free to release and could be syndicated through, you know, most of our city or general like Portland area pretty easily.
I know Pamphlet Media is also looking for articles, well-written articles, informed articles about this kind of thing. Yeah, and I think having a website, Sam, like you said, a page on the website is great. I guess I would be hesitant to commit to that as like the only strategy because most people don't even know like what to look for. And so Brian, like you said, kind of just informing people in a way that, you know, they'll hear about it even if they're not looking for that information seems like it's really valuable because this, I don't think, is on most people's radar.
Yeah, I think even just with this group, if we had a well-written and published press release on a website, we could talk Pamphlet Media into publishing it. We could all put it on our social networks, and you know, I think we can touch most people in this city with just those two channels. And if it gets picked up by more, then great, the information's out there.
Yeah, there's a great Facebook group, OC Gardeners. I think there's like 2,000 people in that group. That'd be a good one to share this too. I can do that. I can just find like an article and then, share it there.
I'm sending Jared an email right now, but just so you all know, his email address is jlyman, JLYMAN @orcity.org, and you can contact him anytime.
Pete, you say he's recent in his position?
Year now. Yeah. So he's part of the administration, which means City Hall. Mm-hmm. He's our community communications manager, and he works closely with the city manager's office. He also has Hannah Schmidt, who's the community engagement specialist. She's been hired, I think, 6 months ago. So staff, we never had either of these two positions in the past. Hannah works, she puts together the neighborhood association and citizen involvement committee agendas and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I really think, Sam, at your discretion, this might be a good opportunity for us to break the ice with that group.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. That's all the updates I want to share right now. Sorry to share some not so happy news, but hopefully we can be more prepared if and when it comes.
Yeah. So I sent Jared a link to the Wilsonville page, which also, that page has the links that take you to the ODA and various others. Asking him to put a press release together, and we can talk more about it.
Okay.
So, all right, future agenda items. I think we're pretty much looking at getting input from you guys on the work plan. What else, Sam?
Future agenda items was we didn't talk about the Tracy USA approved all docs. Is that was on our current agenda? But was there anything to discuss further on that topic?
What? Say what?
Oh, there was an agenda item on today's agenda that we missed.
Yeah, that was just the background information from the Tree Seed USA application that was submitted last year. So where was that? What did I put on there? Oh, yeah. So that's the cover sheet and the data. Yeah, so it has this, the specific money figures associated with trees planted, pruned, and removed, as well as the numbers. So I think tree removal, we have $62,743. Overall management, $304,712. Volunteer time, 300 hours. $103,000 spent on tree planting and initial care. Our community population is 37,000, close to 38,000. Total expenditures 480,000, and I do think that's an underestimate. And then the numbers were 311 trees planted, 282 trees removed, 964 trees pruned. So that was just the summary of that.
Okay. All right. So we don't need to carry that over to the next meeting then.
No, it's just information. I'm presenting the same information as City Commission next week.
Okay. Great. Okay. I think the big next topic for next meeting would be the letter to the commission, working on the work plan, and then finalizing in-person decision for meeting in person.
Yeah, for May. Okay, yeah, I'll follow up with the city recorder on that. Okay.
Oh, I had one more. I talked to Dee Dalstrud, and it sounds like she submitted an application online, but she never heard back. So she wants to interview. I don't know what the timeline is on that, but I know the website. Like I had checked the application functionality feature, like on the website, and at one point it wasn't working. So I don't know if she submitted during that period when they were transitioning the website, but she would like to interview. So I don't know if you have her email, Pete.
Oh, for NRC.
Yeah, she's interested.
Okay.
She did apply, but that was months ago, and she just never heard anything.
Oh, well, that's all through the city recorder's office. So if it came in, I would have heard about it. So,
she's sure that she submitted it. So it sounds like maybe a technical glitch.
Yeah,
I know that was happening at one point. I tried to submit, and it wasn't taking my application. I just wanted to see if it was working. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That reminds me, it can wait, but Nancy is the recipient of a Heritage Tree Hero Award.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
So maybe that can be another homework item about presenting it during an Arbor Day event, if that would be reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't, we just nailed down so Arbor Day is at Chapin Park. There's not going to be a separate event going on. So both the Friends of Trees neighborhood planting is staging it on April 6th at Chapin Park, and the tree planting ceremony with whichever member of the city commission can come and the mayor. So we'll be doing that there. It would be a great opportunity to also have Nancy there on April 6th as well, and do an award if that's something we can figure out. We don't have it set yet. We don't have the sequence of events, but so we can still do that.
Okay. Well, I will still be out of town that day, unfortunately.
Okay.
So
who's the contact
for the award? I can forward it to you. It's from the Oregon Heritage Tree Commission.
Yeah. Okay.
Her name is Beth. I can share her contact information with you. But Dee Dee nominated Nancy, is my understanding.
Okay, great.
So I'll connect you with Beth and Dee Dee, and if someone from the NRC would be available to be on hand and, be supportive, that would be lovely.
Yeah, so I know we're going to have Tom Kissinger there available, helping coordinate stuff. Jared Lyman will be there taking photos. Hopefully we'll get Willamette Falls TV there as well. So time to talk it up.
Okay, I will forward Beth's information to you.
Pete or Sam or anybody, I don't know if this is the time and place for this, but I wonder if there's a way that we can recognize Nancy even more for her decades of contribution to our city, or if we as a committee can suggest that to the city commission or the mayor. She just had such a career of service that it would be nice for our community to see that, and for her to also see that we all recognize and appreciate her and everything that she's done.
Yeah, as citizens of the city, you guys can contact the mayor directly and make that recommendation.
Okay.
Probably be the most immediate way to get it done. I think that's perfectly fine. Or you could do it at a citizen comment. You get 3 minutes. But I think you're right. And I feel like Nancy deserves that kind of recognition.
Yeah, I'd love to see her get more than 3 minutes. I wonder if even just this group as citizens could put together a request to the mayor, which I'm sure she would hold in high regard as committee members and part of her team, to find the time to set aside a few minutes to say something nice about Nancy. So, okay, I'm going to make myself a note to champion that, if Sam, if that's okay with you. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Well, it's 8:02. I very much appreciate everyone's time and sticking it out the full 2 hours. Is there anything that cannot wait until next time?
My dogs can't wait to go out.
All right. Yeah, I know my baby wants me as well, so I need to jet. Thank you all so much for being here. I adjourn the meeting at 8:03.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, guys.